In a matter of 8 hours, I went from a totally healthy guy living and working in London, big nights out, working in the tech scene, to left in a coma to being in a wheelchair for 6 months. It's so difficult and trying. I'm like, well, what if I just flip this entirely? Maybe these are all things that make it the best. If I shift my mindset, I like having fun. I got a podcast that's called Play Loose, Look Tight. Play loose, joie de vivre, enjoy life. Play loose, you want to have fun. Conversely, you want to look tight. So look put together, be on time, be intentional, be prepared. And I ripped it by just 3 pumps of the pulls into a left-hand turn, just like I visualized. And man, we ripped it, and it was phenomenal. It was the happiest day I've had since a brain injury. I was going fast again. I called this shot when I was in a wheelchair, man. Now, you all have goals you're aiming at, stuff you're shooting for. What's holding you back? You're not able to walk, talk, or smile? I'm going to share this one quote with you and your team, you and your listeners. We all have 2 lives, and the second begins when we realize that we only have one.
There comes a time in almost everyone's life when we will encounter some trauma. Now, that trauma can be from getting punched in the face for the first time, to being shamed, to dealing with and then dealing with death. But what if your trauma left you in a coma for weeks on end, leaving you barely able to remember how to do even the smallest things? It can be a very lonely road back. And my guest today is going to share his journey from that very place and how he's helped people reframe the obstacles that they face in their lives. Now, in the meantime, if you're interested in raising your standards as a father, a husband, and an entrepreneur, then I encourage you to participate in our Band of Brothers group mentorship program. We're a group of ordinary guys working towards living extraordinary lives. You can find us at the Awakened Man Training Academy at members.theawakenedman.net. And with that, let's get on with today's episode.
The average man today is sleepwalking through life. Many never reaching their true potential, let alone ever crossing the finish line to living a purposeful life. Yet, the hunger still exists, albeit buried amidst his cluttered mind, misguided beliefs, and values that no longer serve him. It's time to align yourself for greatness. It's time to become a revolutionary man. Stay strong, my brother.
Welcome, everyone, to the Revolutionary Man podcast. I'm the founder of the Awakened Man movement and your host, Alan DeMonso. Have you ever had to deal with trauma in your life? And if so, how did you handle it? And how does it shape who you are today? The events in our lives reveal to us what we're truly made of. Our character in full display may be far different than the one that we thought it would be. For some, this is truly only compounds the issue, while for others, it galvanizes them into forging a new and stronger version of themselves. Well, today, my guest has done just that. Allow me to introduce Dan MacQueen. Dan, at 28, Dan was leading a healthy, active life. After an optometrist appointment to identify the cause of his persistent headaches was cut short, he was handed a sealed envelope and told to go directly to the hospital. What followed was emergency brain surgery. And on June 21st, 2014, Dan's reality was shattered by a devastating brain hemorrhage. With no map to guide him on the grueling path to recovery, Dan had to rely on his grit, perseverance, resilience, and to relearn everything he knew, how to walk, talk, and even smile. And now there's so much more to the story that I just can't wait for you to hear. So I'm going to welcome Dan into the show. Welcome, Dan. How are things today?
Alan, thanks so much for having me. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
It's so great to have you on the podcast today. Dan, in all of our work here at the Awakened Man, we always talk about all of us being on our own hero's journey or our hero's quest. And while I revealed some parts of your story today, I just wondered if you could mind sharing with us how this experience in your life has shaped who you are today, the man that you are, and the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Well, you kind of hit the big highlights there. Headaches, hospital escalation to brain surgery, coma, waking up in the hospital, see my mom, dad, and brother sitting around me. I can't talk because I've just had the tracheotomy removed and I can't move. My voice box hadn't come back yet. I point at my brother, I go, you, give me a pen and paper. I wrote down the pen and paper, I go, get me out of here. Point at my brother, make it happen, bud. Needless to say, he didn't make it happen. I was trapped in the hospital for months after this. But it was super humbling. Like I in a matter of 8 hours, I went from a totally healthy guy living and working in London, big nights out, working in the tech scene, to left in a coma to being in a wheelchair for 6 months. And my brain not working as I wanted to. I'm, very agitated, very, getting that wheelchair took 40 minutes, then 35, then 30, then 25, then 30, then 25. Like it was arduous, uphill fight every day to get in this. And it shifted my perspective entirely. I view life differently now than I did before because I've had to. I've had to change my perspective to address the setbacks that I've been faced with. I'll share one story with you, Alan, if you don't mind.
Yes, absolutely.
Really shifting my perspective in Tuning Broadway. So, as I mentioned, I was in a wheelchair for a number of months, and I slowly got back to walking again. And the walking again, there was a splint on my leg. Now, the splint was horrifically painful. I had to bite my arm trying to distract myself from the pain. It was that painful. I got walking on the Zimmer frame, moved up to something called naked walks. Now, naked walks aren't as raunchy as they sound, just walking without supporter aids. But I'm having fun here. I'm enjoying the process. Then came time to move to constructive optimism, a hack that I used to walk in Tuning Broadway. Now, Tuning Broadway is in South London in what they call up and coming, Alan, which means a bit dodgy. Think loud sirens, drugs, gangs, dirty, hectic, busy. It's a full-on visceral experience. I'm walking with a cane. I'm walking with an eye patch. I'm Bambi on ice. I turn the corner my first day walking in Tuning Broadway, get slammed into by someone. I stagger back a few feet. Someone scurries past me on the right-hand side. Walking around, someone's been stabbed on the sidewalk. I'm thinking, this is a pretty wild place to learn how to walk. This place sucks to walk, man. This is the worst place to learn how to walk in the world. And then, thinking like, can't they see I'm trying to walk here? Can't they see I'm trying here? But I shifted my perspective. Maybe this isn't the worst place to learn how to walk in the world. Maybe this is the best place. If I can walk here, I can walk anywhere. Now, Tuning Broadway didn't change, right? It's still up and coming as far as more today, but it went from the worst to the best in my mind, and my mood reflected that. Bump into me, crash past me, good, bring it on. If I can walk here, I can walk anywhere. Is that all you got? Like reframing this from the worst to the best made the huge difference in my recovery because I looked forward to my walks. I wasn't skirting this adversity. I was looking forward to it. I was relishing the adversity because you're making me better. You're making me better through this. And that's a subtle shift in perspective, but that made all the difference because this went from the worst to the best in my mind, and my mood reflected that. Now, that's an example of how I shifted my perspective through this recovery. And, there's been a number of ups and downs in the journey. Learned to walk. I've got a whole bunch of hacks that I've used to help me gamify life and have fun and turn down the suck, I call it. So, like, life can be a bit difficult and trying at times, but if you can turn down that suck a little bit, you can enjoy yourself, have fun. I'll share another hack if you don't mind there, Alan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regarding the walking in London. So this one's what I call icebreakers, okay? So icebreakers, think of like an icebreaker going through the Arctic, right? They're plowing through the ice and they're taking that initial impact, and you want to slip behind an icebreaker, walking on a sidewalk, let's say. Find someone walking your direction, slip in behind them, let them break the ice for you. You're avoiding that strife, that oncoming traffic. It's just like taking that ease off, turning down the suck a little bit. With the brain injury, your fatigue levels are quite high and your battery runs quite low. So if I can turn down the suck a little bit when I'm walking in a busy place, I can go longer. My battery remains higher longer. But that's a fun way to kind of find these little icebreakers in busy places to walk behind them and let them break the ice for you. Now, when you start shifting your mind to this gamification process, start noticing these little games in all you do. I've just can't help it now. I walk through a busy space, I find an icebreaker naturally. I've got one other one I'll share with you as well, Alan, if you don't mind. On the tube, I take the tube in London. That's how you get around London, is a tube. And it can be quite busy, right? When you got a brain injury, like I used to walk with a cane. I get a seat occasionally with a cane, but then I stopped wearing the cane because it's a right pain in the ass. But I get on the tube and I look for I call it betting on the ponies. So I try to identify people on the seats in front of me to see if they're going to be getting off at the stops ahead. I judge by what they're wearing and kind of gamble. Like, you look like you're going central. You look pretty well dressed. If you're going central London, like if that's a few stops away, if I can position myself to get your seat, you can get your seat. And you can sit down and take the strife off. If you can sit and rest for a little bit, you can recharge the battery and not burn that so hot. But gamification here is so big. Have fun. turn down the suck is what I call this. So that's a few points maybe you want to jump into there, Alan.
Absolutely. Geez, really like the idea of that, the gamification of life for you, and how you use that and able to help propel yourself forward. And then that turning down the suck reminds me of what they talk about in Navy SEALs and the Green Berets, about embracing the suck and actually going after it and doing things is very similar to exactly what you're saying. And so I'm interested in how, was this a concept, this gamification, was that something that you just came up with, or was that something you learned through another avenue?
Well, you spend a lot of time on your backside in the hospital, right? And I'm thinking, let's go back to walking into Broadway, the worst of the best. This place sucks to walk, man. This is the worst place I've ever walked in the world. Well, why is it the worst? Kind of wrote down a list in my mind. Well, because it's busy, it's dirty, it's hectic. I'm getting bumped into. People can't respect the stick. Like, it's so difficult and trying. I'm like, well, what if I just flip this entirely? Maybe these are all things that make it the best. If I shift my mindset, these are the best, not the worst. So I spend a lot of time on my backside, and I can shift my perspective. That's why I shifted perspective there. In terms of the gamification, I mean, I like having fun. I got a podcast. It's called Play Loose, Look Tight. Play loose, joie de vivre, enjoy life. Play loose, you want to have fun. Conversely, you want to look tight. So look put together, be on time, be intentional, be prepared. Plan to fail you fail the plan kind of vibe. But like that, the yin and the yang of this is like a way to live life. But play loose with tight's a big part of my vibe, and gamification is how I structure this and how I have fun with this stuff. Because when you can turn down the suck, you can address these things in a much more pragmatic and thoughtful way. So how did I come up with this stuff? Just thinking, how can I make this less crappy? I'm in the situation no matter what, but I can choose to look at it from the worst, or it could be the best. But it's how you look at it that's everything. There's this great quote from Epictetus, Alan, that I should use a lot of my talk. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters, right? It's a Stoic philosophy, and I'm sure that's big the men's group there. Like, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Now, I didn't choose to have the brain injury, but I can choose how I address it. I can choose how I face this every day because I choose. And that kind of puts the power back in my court that I choose how I view this. I choose how I face this. Yeah. And gamification is a great way to kind of lighten the mood and just have fun, like with this stuff, like naked walks, walking on the Ferrari. Like I'm always having fun here. And when you have fun, you just enjoy life a bit more. You turn down that suck a little bit. And you just enjoy, you're faced with this adversity, but you know what? I get to face this adversity today. I get to make this less sucky. I get to enjoy the space more. So I don't know if that answers your question there, Alan, but that's my vibe there.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally did. And what I really appreciate is what I'm really taking away from what you're saying is that it's the perspective that we have in life. And that's why in introducing this podcast and getting ready for our interview and our talk today is that it really resonated with me, is that the resilience and the change in perspective that you had to put into your life because of what you went through, and how easy it could have been for you to have just said, no, that's it. Life's over. I'm just going to stay like this. I'm not doing anything different. And then look back and what you actually did. There's really no excuse for us who haven't experienced what you've gone through to truly turn down the suck a little bit and enjoy life a little bit more, and really shift our perspective, because we can stop ourselves dead in the track by one poor thought. And when we have and what you're really telling us is that when we can really gain control, and you're talking a little bit of stoicism there, when we can truly take responsibility and get in control of our thinking, then our life totally changes. And I think that's just so profound.
Yeah, I think it's really how you look at it. And that Stoic line is so big for me because it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it matters. And that's not me giving lip service to some Stoic philosophy. Like, I live this way. Control the controllables. Everything in my life is controllable. Like, if I can control it, I focus on fixing it. If I can't control it, I punt it. Exactly. Like, you choose how you face this.
Absolutely.
And it's not fair that this happened to me. It's not fair that stuff happens to you. You're right. It's not fair. But no one gives a crap, man. And no one's coming to save you. If you worry about woe's me, I call this the pity spiral. Avoid this at all costs. The pity spiral is death, because then you can just get down this woe's me. What I say to this is and. End that question with an and.
Nice.
This isn't fair that happened to me. And. Well, nothing never happens to John. Why is nothing ever happened to him? And. Like, you just keep going, you burn yourself out with this. Like, it's not fair it happened to you, but no one's coming to save you, man. You got to get yourself up by your bootstraps and move on with the stuff. Like, it's not fair. It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to fix it. And that's a big thing I try to get across my talks is like, you've got to be the captain of your ship and get through this point. I love guys like, I just recently listened to David Goggins' new book, not Can't Hurt Me, but the new one he just released. And it was just like, this guy's an absolute beast. I'm not by no means compare myself to David Goggins, but like that mindset, when that goes in your mind, like just no, this is what I do, man.
Yeah.
And like you get that dog in you, like you want to do that. And I just think you can be better than yesterday is what I try to achieve. And I try to preach that in my talks. Like you can always be better than yesterday. Make little iterations, little improvements, and just tweak things a little bit to make it better.
Yeah, it's that 1% rule, right? It's about, 1% change, and we don't need to take the whole journey isn't happening in one step. And if we're ready to and prepared to take that one step, then we can start to make profound changes in our life. And I love Goggins' work as well. So can't wait to have an opportunity to dive into that new book, but I'm sure it'll be phenomenal.
Banging.
Right. Now you had a setback in 2015 also. So tell me how you handled that second round of adversity.
Yeah. So that one was, I describe my recovery like a W, Alan. So the first setback is that first dip in the W and the back to work. A year later, back to work. I'm like almost back up to script. Well, not even up. I'm like halfway up the Potomac Bowl here. The second setback happens. I was found unconscious in my flat by my mom. The shunt that's in my head had blocked, leading to hydrocephalus or water on the brain. I've been having difficulty waking up. Now I know that means it's probably the shunt. This happens in less than 10% of cases. I was rushed to the hospital, underwent emergency brain surgery for the second time. I woke up in that hospital bed to hear the alarms going off, the heart rate monitor going off. What happened? Well, Dan, you had a second setback. You had to have emergency brain surgery again. I go, all my progress is washed away. Like, well, we stopped the blockage. We got the blockage here, but yeah, you're back in the hospital for a number of weeks here, and all that work's been washed away. And I describe this as like the depths of the human experience, because all my progress has been washed away in an instant. I've been working my tail off to get back to work, and I was there for 2 months. And the second setback happens, like, woe's me, like this creeps up, right? Like,
yeah,
it took me a week to rectify with this, to grapple with this and understand it's not what happens. The brain injury didn't kill you. So you're telling me there's a chance. And I just chose to look at it like, mind you, this took about a week to get my head around this, right? The guy was down in the dumps for a week. Like, this isn't fair. This sucks. Why me? But then I chose to look at it like, hey, man, get back to work. Chop wood, carry water is what I call this. Chop wood, carry water. The process, get back to work. Like, this didn't get you. You're still gone. Now I kind of look at it like, what are you going to come at me with that I haven't already faced? Like, you think you saying that I can't do something is going to intimidate me or like scare me off something? Like, but look at my track record here. I've been through this and this and this. And like that second setback, man, was so tough.
Yeah.
So tough because I had done rehab. So we had to fight tooth and nail to get some service from at home. And I got some there, but it wasn't nearly as inclusive as it was before. But yeah, I had to fight tooth and nail to get back to this and get back to work. And it was arduous, difficult, grindy, scratchy, clawy, fighting. Like, I fought with my everything to get back to this. And I had a lot of help too, Alan. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, hospital was great. Mom and dad were amazing to help me back. Friends were phenomenal. I wouldn't have been able to do this without their help for sure. But you got to choose how you're going to face this. I could have chose like, hey, I guess, you know what? Life just isn't what I want to be. Like, it's not going to be fair with me. That's fine. I guess this is my lot now.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not going to settle for this. This is my life, man.
Yeah.
So the odds of being a human being are 400 trillion to 1. 400 trillion to 1 for your chance to have a life. And these are your cards. You can choose to whinge about them or you can get on with it.
Yeah.
And I've looked at that like, you know what? This isn't fair that it happened to you. It's my responsibility to fix this and move on with this. So it's like, I don't know how else you address this. Like, how do you stay motivated? Someone asked me. It's like, well, how do you not, man? Like, this is my life. When that second setback happens, like, yeah, sure, you can feel woes me and down and out, but like, at the end of the day, this is my at bat. Am I just gonna like, I'm okay to sit on the bench now? It's like, hell no, man. I'm just getting started. I'm just getting started with this.
Yeah.
Watch me, brother.
Love that. Just love that. We also talk a lot in our work about us men being able to live a life of purpose on purpose. So meaning we take purposeful action every day towards a larger something that's much bigger than us. What is that for you?
Well, every day I wake up with intention, man. So I wake up, I make my bed. First thing I do in the morning, make my bed. I go for a walk, a swim, or a gym. I come back, shower, and the shower cold every day. 2 minutes. Ice cold shower. That'll wake you up, baby. Go meditate for a few minutes. 25 minutes for me, but you do what works for you.
Yeah.
I started with 2 minutes in the morning, then 4, then 6, then 8. Ramp up week by week incrementally. And then I get on with my day. Like, I start with intention every day so I know what I'm doing. And that's me putting my armor on because I know I got to suit up for this. I got a battery now, Alan, that goes to 75%. Every second I'm awake drains the battery. Below 50, I'm a bit unpleasant. Below 40, I'm a bit of a prick. I got to charge the battery back to 75, but it will never get higher than 75 ever, no matter what I do. I can recharge by taking a nap, meditating, but I've got to live with those limitations in the battery and respect the battery. But every day I wake up with intention with what I'm trying to do. Look at my calendar, plan it out, map out workouts and exercise, and be intentional with that. It's not by accident. None of this is by accident. Like, I'm not here by accident. I'm not climbing back up by accident. Like, this is chop wood, carry water, man. Every day, like, what I want to try and do. And, like, everyone's got stuff they're going through, right? But, like, just put your mindset, change your mindset a little bit, and you might be amazed about what you can do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that Buddhist term, chop wood and carry water. You say that all the time as well, especially when the going gets tough, right? You just got to pull up your pants and get at her, because if I don't, what's the result? The result is nothing.
All you can do is chop wood, carry water. Like, I'm trying to get going as a speaker now. I'm trying to get going on podcasting and speaking. I've got a bit of a runway here to make this happen. Like, how do I do that? Not by getting all crazed up and floppy around, flailing around. It's like, no, get to work, chop wood, carry water every day. Hammer the emails, pump out applications for podcasts, speaking applications for businesses and organizations. Like, get to work, man. Like, you're not going to get there by like wishing something to happen. You got to put the work in to make it happen, right?
Absolutely. I always, a lot of people think, especially in today's new age world of spirituality, a lot of people think that, spirituality lives in their butts because they sit and they meditate, things will come to them. But I always say that spirituality lives in my feet. It's about taking action. And I'll never forget, and that was the lowest point in my life about 40 years ago, 35, I guess now. I guess about 35 years ago. And my current wife gave me this set of tapes from Jack Canfield. It was Self-Esteem and Peak Performance. And I listened to that, and, the whole thing, I think I memorized the whole thing, but he made a statement in there that the universe rewards action. It was one of those things that I always remember, that, if you want something to happen, then you have to step up and do it and take responsibility for it. And that's exactly what you're saying. It's just, this is the cards I'm dealt with. It's up to me how I want to play them. And you're playing them really well.
Well, I love that too. And I think, like, for me, another mantra I live by is done is better than perfect. So, like, I'm worried about like tech stuff, like my website, like my demo reel. Done is better than perfect. Get it out there, get V1 out there, and then iterate. But take action, take steps, because you can improve that lot. You can't improve it on the sideline because it's never out there. Yeah. Put it out into the world, let the world vet it and whatever. But, like, hey, move forward, man. Every step's forward.
Absolutely. Now, listen, you had a story. I want to hear a little bit about this, about dropping the nurse call button and how and everything that's around that. So tell us about what dropping the nurse call button was all about.
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up, Alan. That's when I was in a hospital bed, had to wear a splint to straighten my leg, and the splint's like a cast over your leg, and it's very painful because my leg was frozen on an angle in the coma. We had to stretch it out 1 hour a night. Well, the first night I wore it all the way through the night, no issue, no stress. This will be easy. I thought this will be easy. It wasn't easy. The second night, they wrap it up. They go for patrol of the Wilson ward. Now, the Wilson ward's an L shape, right? So short on this side, long on this side. They give me the clicker. It's the time for 1 hour. And they leave me in the hospital room. Now, the hospital room smells like a hospital room can only smell. Sanitary, clean, a bit too clean. That smell of, like, If you haven't smelled it, don't rush to smell it, but you know what I'm talking about when you smell it. They leave me in the room. After 20 minutes is painful. After 30 it's dreadful. After 40 it's unbearable. Because I get splint off. I can't do this anymore. This is ridiculous. But I tell the nurses the next day, I'm wearing this for an hour. No matter what, I'm wearing this for an hour. I'm a walker. I want to be a walker. So the third day, they wrap up my leg, give me the clicker, set the time for 1 hour, and they go for patrol to Wilson ward. Now, after 10 minutes, it's painful. After 20, it's dreadful. After 30, this leg is unbearable. It's like a rat's nest on my leg, just clawing, scratching, scurrying, burrowing. It's so painful. The pain's ratcheting up. I start passing the clicker back and forth. Now, Alan, I have double vision, which means I see two of you now, which means I can't see much of this. Eventually, inevitably, I drop the clicker on the floor. Shit. I see the clicker lying there on the ground, staring at me, 3.5 feet down on the ground. The solution to my problem is right there. Only problem is the fall from that height might break my arm. In fact, I figured about a 50-50 chance of me breaking my arm when I drop down to grab the clicker. I'm pawing at my splint. I can't undo it. It's set up at the ankle, not at the hip. Help! Help! I yell. Ward of the Wilson's an L shape, right? Short on this side, long on this side. They're the far end of the ward. They can't hear me. I decide I'm going to flip the coin and go for the clicker because at least if I break my arm, I get this bloody splint off my leg. I'm sure my priorities will shift once the arm's broken, but let's get the splint off my leg now. So I lower myself off the bench and I crash down on the floor. It's a yard sale. Blankets, cables, wires, it's all go. The arm holds. I hammer the clicker, expecting the nurses to come burst into the room to come to the rescue like the bat signal's been put up. We kind of stroll in 5 minutes later. Oh, what are you doing on the floor? They ask me. Well, let's not worry about that. I tell them, let's get the splint off my leg, please. I'll tell you all about it. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to the matters, right? The reason why I'm telling you this story is there's 2 lessons I learned from this. The first is let's not pass the clicker back and forth. With double vision, that's a recipe for disaster. The second was let's do the splint up at the hip, not at the ankle. These are small learnings, but they compound over time. Better than yesterday's what I'm trying to preach here. Small incremental improvements improve day after day. I never again faced the rat's nest, thank goodness. But man, was that like flipping a coin to break my arm. I thought like I'm for sure breaking my arm. Yeah. Well, 50-50 chance, but I was okay with that odds. And I dropped down in a heap to grab that. But that splint was horrific, man. And I tell you that story so you know how bad the splint was to wear. I was willing to risk breaking my arm to get that off. Now, after that, we managed to do it an hour a day. That was fine, but that just goes to show you how humbling this was. Like this, I'll do it for an hour for sure. After 30 minutes, I am willing to break my arm to get this thing off my leg. It's that painful. It's horrific. That's me dropping the call button. So that was not the best idea, passing the clicker back and forth. But we learned our lesson and never happened again, thankfully.
Yeah, absolutely. But even still being able to have to make that decision, right? And every time you're faced with a tough decision, do I bend down, pick this up, knowing full well that the likelihood is I could possibly break my arm, or what was the other choice? There really wasn't much other choice. You had to do this. And so again, it goes to show for me what I keep taking away from hearing your stories is that all of us face adversity at some level in our life. Yeah. And how quickly do we discount and allow the negative part, self-talk? It's the old adage of the devil and the angel on our shoulder, and we spend more time listening to this one, to the devil, than we do with that little angel that's encouraging you, that's saying you can go ahead and do this. You have to try. Yeah. And I think it's such a powerful lesson for all of us to think about how we can try a little bit harder and get a little bit better each day. Now, listen, go ahead, Dan.
Sorry. I was just going to say one final thing about that. No one was coming to save me, man. I could have waited half an hour for this, but
yeah,
there's no telling they're going to come back in half an hour. Maybe they come back in 40 minutes, 50 minutes. This leg, I need this off now.
Yeah.
So I chose to be proactive and be solutions oriented, and I saw the solution there and I went for it.
Yeah.
No one's coming to save you. It's kind of a metaphor for this whole experience. You got to kind of go after what you want in life. With girls, with jobs, with whatever have you, go after what you want, man, because I can do this. I'm going to do this. Sorry, go ahead there, Alan.
Yeah, no, I love that. You're absolutely right. We need to take action and get on with it. You have another pretty big goal here. I know, a big, hairy, audacious goal, I'll call it, and that's wanting to ski. And so, can you just give us a little plan on what your goal setting plan looked like to be able to do that?
Yeah, thanks, Alan. So that's a big part of my vibe. So I actually skied last winter. But this was a goal I had in the hospital when I was in, fresh days out of the coma. I was in a wheelchair working on the even bars. Now, these are even bars you hold when you're unstable on your feet. They were asking me what I was most looking forward to get back to doing. It's a big question. I thought I got to have a good answer for this. I used to play a lot of sports: soccer, hockey, volleyball, softball, skiing. What would be most difficult to get back to doing? Skiing would be the most difficult. Balance, core strength, depth perception, double vision, which I mentioned earlier, would make things interesting. Gauging obstacles at speed. If I could ski again, I'd have to be in a pretty good way physically, I thought. I told them I wanted to ski again. They paused and nodded in agreement. Okay, they said. What I'm sure was a simple exercise designed to get me thinking about future goals has been burned in the back of my mind as something I got in for. Last winter, we picked a date, March 31st. We landed on sun well into spring. Brought the skis in the shop. They get waxed, they get sharpened. They couldn't adjust the bindings. Those were set at a pretty high setting. Those were too old for liabilities and they couldn't touch the skis. That's fine, I thought. Waiting for the gondola ride up, I remember an old hack on Grouse Mountain to be the last one on the gondola. That way you can rest your skis and poles on the door behind you and have your hands free to adjust your gloves, adjust your jacket, or just drinking that beautiful view. Now we're on the gondola ride going up, over the first tower, big forward, big back. I'm thinking it's going to come back, right? It's got to come back, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you guys close your eyes for 1 second. We're getting your altitude. You're going to feel a bit of cold in your cheeks. Just a gentle cold. It's a spring day, so not too cold. We're going to land at the dock of the station. We're going to walk to the station. Into a wall of sunshine. Big, beautiful bluebird day. Big inhale. You're going to smell the pine trees, the fresh air, the snow. Down the stairs, clang, clang, clang onto the snow. Crunch, crunch, crunch. You're back on the slopes. Open the eyes, please. We did a few warm-up runs with the boys. And then we ripped it, man. And I ripped it by just 3 pumps of the poles into a left-hand turn, just like I visualized. I was an instructor after uni for a season, so I remember an old hack to put the poles in your hand. Keep your upper body still, lower body active like a duck. And man, we ripped it, and it was phenomenal. It was the happiest day I've had since a brain injury. I was going fast again. I called this shot when I was in a wheelchair, man. Now, you all have goals you're aiming at, stuff you're shooting for. What's holding you back? You're not able to walk, talk, or smile? I'm going to share this one quote with you and your team, you and your listeners. We all have 2 lives. And the second begins when we realize that we only have one. I skied, man. And that was something I backtracked, and like I said I was going to do this, and it was honestly, I couldn't believe it was happening. Because when I said this out loud, it wasn't possible. It was a moonshot goal, man. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't even walk. I'm going to ski, and I tell them, like, ridiculous even now to say it. But damn it, I was skiing, man. It was wicked.
And just love that. That is outstanding. And for sure, right, being able to come back and do something that you enjoyed before, and then having it in the visualization practice is just so powerful as well. Of everything that we've spoken about today, and maybe there was something that we haven't had a chance to touch on, what would be the one takeaway you'd want our listeners to have?
I guess someone asked me if you could give some advice to your younger self, what would you do? And I would pass this advice along. Ask for forgiveness, not for permission. Unless it's for someone's time, then always ask for permission. Live your life that way, and I think you'll be in a good space. Now, within reason, obviously, you don't be doing like illegal stuff, but like for job opportunities, for speaking stuff, for claiming your space in what you do in life, like just take it, man. It's there, take it. Ask for forgiveness afterwards. But like it's stuff that I've learned out because I've been now I was the best at doing that, and now I'm much more intentional with that, which is quite helpful. In terms of the rest of my vibe, like I'm on the speaking circuit now. You can find more at my website, MacQueenDan.com. That's MacQueen.com, to Dan.com. And I'm MacQueen Dan across all the socials. You can get at me there. But yeah, I'm excited to make a go of this and see what happens.
Outstanding. Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Dan. It was an inspiring discussion we had today. And, we unpacked quite a bit. And I think you've shed lots of light on how it is that we can overcome any trauma in our life as long as we have the right perspective. And the right perspective is taking action. And so I want to say thank you so much for spending time with me again. And I'm going to make sure that all of the information that are in the show notes for folks to get a hold of you, book you on for a speaking engagement. I think you have an incredible story to tell, and people need to hear it.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you for listening to the Revolutionary Man podcast. Are you ready to own your destiny? To become more the man you are destined to be? Join the brotherhood that is The Awakened Man at theawakenedman.net and start forging a new destiny today.